Iain Hosie is the co-founder of Revolution Fibres, a nanofibre production company. Now, the fibres have a range of uses, from Formula One car parts through to skincare products. He joins me now. Well, first of all, what is nanofibre?
Nanofibre are actually a form of textile. They come under the class of non-wovens, so we don't weave this material. We use a process called electrospinning to create fabrics, textiles out of fibres that are 500 times thinner than a human hair.
So does that mean, therefore, they take so much more to create an outfit?
Yeah. I guess in thinking about the textiles that we know and love, in clothing, it's very unlikely that you'll ever find a nanofibre garment anytime soon. So this is typically textiles that are used in industrial processes and also consumer products, where the nanofibre is effectively the functional part of the textile.
So what does it actually do? Now that we know what it is, what does it do?
Yeah, well, we've got such a variety of uses, it's hard to know where to start. So I guess looking back at our history, we started in the field of air filtration. And the simple way of describing what it actually does in filtration is that we use very fine fibres to make very fine holes in which we capture particles out of the air. Could be bugs, could be dust, PM 2.5. So that's traditionally where nanofibre has found its early traction in the market. And the benefit of using very fine fibres for filtration is that it reduces the amount of pressure that you need to blow air through these types of filters. Same can be said for when you put them in a face mask, for example. The amount of effort to breathe through the face mask is greatly reduced, so you get very breathable, comfortable face masks that have a high efficiency.
So how do you come to the decision to sort of commercialise it? Do you just go one day, hey, let's do nanofibre and commercialise it?
Yeah, no, it certainly didn't come from there. We were working with HRV at the time, who was a ventilation firm in New Zealand, and they were really concerned and really wanted to have the highest level of filtration possible. And so they had quite a unique challenge because they also have quite a light fan. They only wanted to use 80 watts to blow, almost like a household full of air every hour through the filter. So we had to really challenge ourselves to think, well, how can we get that much airflow and yet get a much, much higher efficiency filter? And that's when we discovered nanofibre. But we had quite a unique challenge. We saw it at a research level, but we wanted 100,000 square metres a year just to service that one contract. So we were immediately in a bit of a bind. We kind of had to become manufacturers in order to deliver our client what they needed.
So how did that company come off the ground then? I mean, you've got one company, now you've discovered this, and then you go, let's go in this direction.
Yeah, I guess it was very much a case of us being enamoured with the research. We could see in filtration it made a lot of sense. We had a manufacturing conundrum. We didn't know where to buy it from, who to work with. So that made us think about manufacturing nanofibre a lot more deeply. But myself, I did a lot of market research, and I could see in many, many sectors the uses for nanofibres were very well researched, but they weren't hitting the market, they weren't being commercialised. And when I asked around and went to a few conferences and understood the market a little bit more deeply, we could see that the gap was manufacturers of nanofibre. So I guess that for us was the catalyst. We felt, well, we've got one client, but there's so many more areas that we could get into if we could get the scale up to more of a manufacturing level, industrial scale.
So there is competition?
There's some competition, but it's very siloed, if you like. So many of them are filter companies. They only make filters. The other big part of the market is in battery separators. They separate the anode and the cathode of lithium-ion batteries.
But how did you come to discover that was what it could be used for? If you're dealing with air filtration and all of a sudden you're talking about Formula One car parts, how do you work out what else it can be used for?
Yeah, well, this is an interesting space. you can make nanofibre in a university lab very cheaply, very easily, and therefore a lot of people do it. In fact, there's over 2,000 academic papers per year in nanofibre research, and they all have these weird and wonderful industrial applications. And so we're sort of letting the research happen all around the world, just reading up and being skilled up on what's happening in the market, and trying to then take, I guess, the big trends and connect them to industrial uses. So I guess it's a bit of, if you can build it, they will come, and that's not always the case. But we're seeing a lot of research that we don't have to do ourselves, which leads us into particular sectors and markets. I guess
when you have to come up with this machinery to try and build all this, it sounds very expensive. Now, you didn't go down the angel investment route. Was there? How did you finance it?
We're very ambitious shareholders. We're prepared to put their own money in. We also had some good support from Forced, which is now Callaghan Innovation. So we managed to do a project grant. We were effectively designing machines that had never been built before. We just really took an engineering perspective on what has typically been part of the science domain. So I guess we came into it as engineers, looking at a science, and started to think about ways in which we could turn lab scale equipment into something more industrial scale. And it's surprising.
Engineers, is there a difference between engineers and being a businessman?
Definitely. So it's definitely, we've had to learn. I personally have had to learn to be a businessman. I came into it from a science perspective. I felt comfortable running a team of scientists, but over the years we've learnt to be business people, and fortunate enough to have mentors and shareholders who've been in the business space for many years, and so that's allowed us to become business people. But our market is typically filled with high-tech entrepreneurs who don't have a lot of commercial experience, and we've really gone into this from a business perspective right from the start.
But you need sales team to go and sell. I mean, selling to Formula One car parts, what, do you have to find someone who's going to do that, or do you have to hop on a plane and go and talk to the Formula One bosses?
Yeah, so every one of our products have a different kind of network, if you like. So carbon fibre is a good example. This is a lot of the design happens in the US, in Europe, and you really need to tap into the design teams of these Formula One teams and sporting goods. And in that case, we've used distributors, people who already have good networks, who are typically on the design teams or very close to the design teams. So with Formula One, we're one step removed. We've got a distributor in Italy who knows all the Formula One teams, and so he's managed to introduce our product. But then when the testing happens, we have to have the expertise in order to be able to liaise with these teams, understand the results, make improvements. So we've had to really school up in areas such as composite manufacturing in the business.
What advice have you got for others who want to sort of commercialise this type of technology?
I think one of the big things is to think big. I mean, nanotechnology, it's always fascinating.
It's ironic.
Yeah, that's it. But it's fascinating in the lab, but nobody really thinks about how could it be scaled up, and furthermore, can it be scaled up in a way that people can use it?
Pay for it.
And pay for it, yeah. So, we've turned our business model on its head a little bit, and 3 or 4 years ago when we realised that we couldn't make nanofibre that would suit every single commercial application. It was just impossible. So we opened what we call nanofibre customisation services, where we work with clients to develop products out of the public eye. We design the products, we manufacture the products with the client in mind, so they get something very customised, very specific, and we can do the R&D in a collaborative fashion. And that's allowing us to take effectively the platform technology and get it into quite a wide range of uses, anything from outdoor clothing to car parts.
But I guess, do the clients come and knock on your door and go, hey, look, we need some nanotechnology, or do you come up with an idea and then find clients that would want it?
Bit of both. Certainly when we were starting up as a business, we weren't, the phone would never ring, so we really had to take concepts to the market. So we would use other people's research and say, hey, look at this. These are great materials in toughening resin and sporting goods. We can make it. Would you like to try it? And that was kind of our business model for the early days.
Where are you going to be in 10 years?
We'll be probably manufacturing still very much so in New Zealand. We have some products that are heavily dependent on New Zealand ink, the branding, natural cosmetics, for example. We have quite a lot of unique materials here in New Zealand that we want to control the manufacture. We've also considering doing some manufacture overseas as well, where we feel for materials such as in composite reinforcement and in outdoor clothing, all these types of emerging niche uses, we have to get closer to the supply chain.
To become a subscriber, head to nbr.co.nz/subscriptions and join NBR today.